Howard.
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Before we dive into the football and Bryce Young, American Underdog Story 2, is that coming out?
No plans for that. My wife doesn't want to have any part of that right now. So maybe a long time in the future. I got to accomplish some more things first.
Man, the sequel is always worth it.
Perfect.
You know?
It is.
That'll be the second movie I'll ever watch that'll make me cry. Your first movie is the first one that I did. Your story is phenomenal, which leads me to a great question about Bryce Young, because obviously you were benched. You actually gave a shout out to Tom Coughlin for benching you in the time that he did and how he handled it with transparency, and it made you the person you were. And looking back on it, you appreciate that situation. The amount of adversity in your life, I feel like, really propelled you to become the player and human that you are. So all those bad situations led to obviously a great outcome. For Bryce Young being benched here, week 2 of his second year with a brand new coaching staff, brand new general manager, how'd you feel about the news whenever you heard it? And what do you think this means for Bryce Young?
I mean, first and foremost, it's obviously not easy. It's one of those things that it's a tough situation to get benched at any point in time in your career, whether you've had success, whether you're a new guy. So it's tough. But if you look at the decision, the first thing you look at is the fact that he hasn't played good football. And you wonder if he was ready to be able to handle everything that goes into being a starting quarterback in the National Football League. And we've seen this a lot over the last few years of guys getting thrown in there before they're ready, and they're asked to, be competitive. They're asked to try to carry a team that's not very good while learning how to play in the National Football League. And so it's obvious when you watch the tape that Bryce wasn't ready to handle all that goes into it. And, Bryce was in a unique situation because a lot of times we get these young quarterbacks that are great athletes and can run around and create and have these big arms. They can make up for things with their athletic ability. Bryce isn't one of those guys. And so he's got to win with processing and getting the ball out on time and having good technique to make sure that he's accurate with his throws. And those are all things that he's struggling with right now. The ball comes out too late. His technique is hurting him in terms of getting the ball out on time. You couple that with a team that's not great around him that can't, cover up some of those issues. And you can understand from a football perspective why they made this move. I think the other side of it, too, is to maybe see this as a situation where it was needed for Bryce Young, the person, the expectations, what he's been asked to do. He was just talking about that, just the idea of, all the pressure on him. And now it gets deflected a little bit to other people. And so, now you're in a situation where, okay, it's not all about me being the savior. He can step back. He can step away from the expectations. And then, you've got to internally look at yourself and go, okay, what part in this did I have? Right? It's easy to go, well, they didn't believe in me and it's only 2 games and all of this stuff. But when I was in those situations, I always had to ask myself, okay, why? Was there something that I was accountable for that I wasn't doing well enough that I need to be better at for the next time around so I can put my best foot forward and I can hold on to this job and I can live up to the expectations that I set for myself and the organization sets for me. And so I'm hoping this is a chance for Bryce to step back and to learn and grow, because one of the hardest things to do is to learn the game and learn how to play against the best athletes in the world on Sunday afternoons with those kind of expectations. So I understand why they did it from an organizational standpoint. I hope it's a good thing for Bryce Young and he can internalize some of the things he's got to work on. And like we're seeing with some other guys, the Sam Darnolds and the Geno Smiths, the hope is take a step back, grow, learn, become a better player, and then be ready for the next opportunity so you can go in and thrive and show people that you belong as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Hey, go do it, Bryce.
Oh, yeah, Bryce.
Go do it, Bryce. Now, he was getting to do all that with all that pressure in front of like 1,500 people, too. Like that Carolina Panthers business. I mean, the whole thing's bad, And I think like Canales having the ability to be able to do this, and also Dan Morgan in his first year as GM being able to make this move, I think that's a big deal with ownership, too. And hopefully they'll be able to just stay on a path.
Yeah.
Just a path for a year or two, and maybe this doesn't just become a cycle of quarterbacks coming and going. Because two of those guys you talked about, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, they were literally on the Panthers. Baker Mayfield was running rush end on special teams for the Carolina Panthers. Now he's obviously lighting it up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm sure the boys will have a couple questions about the quarterbacks that you're liking seeing. Let's talk about you older quarterbacks or ex-NFL quarterbacks chatting about the current state of quarterbacks or the current state of football. I feel like we hear Tom Brady talk about it a lot. He even, I think he was on the Stephen A. Smith show live from the Fanatics Fest. He went into what college has done and how like the transfer portal and NIL and there's no real development in college. Then you get into the NFL and there's seemingly no real development. So these coaches have just made the offenses easier for these quarterbacks so that it isn't just bust, waiting for people to become an NFL-style quarterback. Is that an accurate depiction on the current state of offensive football from all you got Hall of Famers that played the quarterback position of the past? And when did this start happening, you think? How long has this been taking place?
Yeah, I can't speak to exactly when, but I would say the last decade or so, you see it start to move in this direction. And I think there is some accuracy to it. And I think what you start to see starting at the college level is, we're getting greater and greater athletes to play the quarterback position. And so when you get into college, the idea is, man, we want to get this great athlete on the field as soon as possible. And in so much of college, right, there's not nearly as much parity in college. So you can get the best athlete in there. You can simplify the system and then just say, hey, if this isn't open, if we haven't created something wide open, then run around and make a play. And, we're getting these athletes that have the ability to do that because they're the best athlete on the field, in college. But the problem with that is that they're not developing them for the time that comes when they're not the best athlete on the field anymore, or when they're playing at the NFL level, and they still might be the best athlete on the field, the guys like Lamar and Kyler, but you still can't live in that world all the time. You still have to learn how to play the game. And so they're getting further and further in their careers with not truly learning how to play the quarterback position. And what I mean by that is playing inside the pocket, seeing defenses, knowing where their eyes need to be, playing on schedule, all of those things that you just have to be able to do at the NFL level. These great athletes can get away with it. I mean, Kyler Murray had a perfect quarterback rating, so he's really good in a lot of areas, but still has to work towards becoming a complete quarterback. But he's such a good athlete that he can still have success at this level.
Got it.
Not very many guys are like that. So these guys that do it in college and now all of a sudden they're in the NFL and it's like, oh, sorry, can't do that anymore. Now what are you going to do? And they start to struggle. We talk about the simplicity of the system. I talk about this all the time. There's this thing in football now called pure progression offenses. So what that means is we're designing a play where your reads stay exactly the same no matter what the coverage is. So whatever, your X receiver's number 1, your Y receiver's number 2, your Z receiver's number 3, your running back's number 4, doesn't matter what the defense does, that's how you're going to progress. So the idea makes sense, right? That, hey, if you give me that play every time, I can plug anybody into it because all they have to do is look at this guy and then look at this guy and look at this guy and look at this guy. So it should be easier. But I'm a proponent that says it actually hurts quarterbacks. Now, if your number 1 receiver is open, it doesn't hurt you. You just throw and complete it. But the process by which it takes you to go from 1 to 2 to 3, the timing that goes into making sure you're on time exactly with 1, 2, and 3, to me, slows down the processing for quarterbacks. Whereas I'm from the school, and Tom Brady, and I think a lot of the old school guys are we played in offenses that were what we called full field reads. In other words, see what the defense is doing, and then if they're doing this, X might be the first read. If they're doing this, Z might be the first read. If they're doing this, the F might be the... So we change our reads based on what we're seeing, and then we become defender read type quarterbacks. Meaning, again, instead of looking at this receiver to see if he's open, I have both 1 and 2 receivers. One's running a corner, one's running a flat. I am reading both of those guys at the same time because I'm reading the defender that's trying to cover both of them. He goes deep, I throw it underneath. He goes short, I throw it over the top. So now, in essence, I'm reading 1 and 2 at the same time. So the whole process is speeding up for me. I'm not going 1, 2, 2. I'm going 1 and 2 at the same time. I'm putting a guy in conflict. The defense is telling me where to throw it, as opposed to me trying to figure out if a guy is open or not open and then moving through my progressions. And so they're trying to make it easier. They're trying to make it so they can plug anybody in and play. But these guys, to me, are playing catch up, and they're struggling because they're not getting through things and processing information fast enough. Slows everything down. Now they have to create more. Now they're missing layups. And now it just becomes more and more of a struggle every time out because you're not able to drop back and make that easy throw or make that easy read and allow the guys around you to help you be successful.
I think that.
Does that make sense?
Phenomenal
Is that
answer.
too complicated?
No, phenomenal answer. And I think
Okay.
anytime you talk to any of these old football guys, old school football guys, they go, oh, you got to run a zone beater here. Oh, this is a cover 2 beater here. This is a man beater. This is a cover 0 beater. And it's like being able to tell what those are before the snap is a big deal. And then knowing exactly what the play that you're running, what is going to be open. That's like the masterclass level, right? That is, and nobody's really being tasked with.
Toughest quarterbacks to play.
Yeah.
Once they get that little information, because they just need to know, hey, split safety, single high, okay, is a corner matching a running back out here? Once they motion back in, okay, now I'll go to their best. So it's having another offensive coordinator on the field because they only have so much information from the sideline. Once you break the huddle and actually see the picture as a quarterback or even the defender sometimes, now if you can adjust and get people in their right spots, it's almost impossible. They're almost always going to be right,
Yep.
Yeah, let me add to that. It is that idea of, I always used to say, you try to make the game as simple as possible, as quickly as possible. So what that means is, back to my, example of a corner and a flat. As soon as I realize it's a cover 2 defense, I can get my eyes right to that corner because he's got to cover both of those routes. So that becomes the challenge, right? Understanding what you're seeing, and then how quickly can you get to your eyes to that man in conflict. Now, I will say the caveat here is defenses are more complicated to a degree now than they were when we played. And specifically in the fact that we have so many great athletes at the defensive line position. More teams will pop out defensive linemen to play coverage than they ever did when I played. Like, they had zone dogs, but the zone dogs were, a lot more simplistic when I was playing than they are now. So there's guys popping out that you have to recognize, and that is a hard thing for guys to recognize. So that's the flip side of, doing the full field read. I just firmly believe that if you can't do that, and you're going to live in the pure progression world, there are going to be games against good defenses where you struggle.
Playoffs.
Because a lot of times pure progression stuff sends guys to different zones.
Playoffs.
Right? So I've got 5 guys, and 5 guys are going to 5 different zones. The defense has guys in those zones. I need to put a guy in conflict defensively. So he goes high, I go low. He goes in, I go out. That, to me, is how you have to win playing football, and you obviously have to do it at a great speed.
We always talk about it, and thank you for all this. This was phenomenal. And D. Butch obviously adding it. I just feel like I got much smarter in that entire thing. We always talk about with these quarterbacks, and it's kind of a cop-out for sports media to do this, and we kind of do it, so we do apologize. But you can tell, I think, with some teams in the first half of the season, if they have what it takes to win when it matters. Like, a quarterback is going to have to make, like, a 3rd and 13 throw on the sideline at some point, if you want to win the Super Bowl, which everybody's trying to do, you're going to have to do that. At some point, you're going to have to check into the right play and know what something's going to happen. There's things that have to happen. Can win games week to week. Can win games, can do well. But whenever push comes to shove, you're going to have to do something that an elite quarterback has always had to do. Patrick Mahomes on the barbershop, I think after he won his first Super Bowl, he said, I just started understanding what the defenses were doing midway through the last year or whatever. So that's something you can certainly develop. But the ones that win all know it. That is how the NFL goes. Now we talk about the defense and understanding that in the offense. Let's go to a different part. AQ has a question for you.
Yeah, Kurt, you were talking a lot about, diagnosing things post-snap, but for me, I know the good quarterbacks I've been with, they're very involved in protections. And you heard Aaron Rodgers talk about it this week, that he sees cover 0 coming, brings another guy in and, gets the protection and throws it to Garrett Wilson down the sidelines. Can you explain a little bit how important it is? Because it drives me crazy as I'm watching film on Monday, Tuesday, when guys don't know when they're protected. And also, whenever
it's the offensive line's fault.
And they always blame it on the offensive line. And there's other things, too, where you're obviously seeing, a Mike Sam blitz coming, and they're running a 2-jet protection instead of fixing the protection and going that. Can you explain a little bit about that?
There is no doubt about it. And again, it lends itself to already what I'm talking about with the simplicity of the offenses. AQ, when I played, and I tell young quarterbacks that I work with now, is that the number one thing that I studied was our plays, right? To know where I was going against different coverages, what my answers were, what I was thinking, how I tied everything together. The second most important thing that I studied on a weekly basis was protections. I wanted to know who my offensive line was blocking. I wanted to know where my back was going. I wanted to know, more importantly than anything, who was I responsible for, right? I wanted to know who was that guy that I was responsible for. And then for me, that was something that I was really good at. I wanted built-in quick throws for me, what we call hot throws, right? I wanted those answers. So when that guy came, I knew who it was. Boom, ball is out of my hands, and I'm letting my playmakers make plays for me. It's one thing that I write down more often in my notes every week when watching film than anything else. Have a pressure plan. Have a pressure plan. The quarterbacks have no pressure plan, and I don't think it's emphasized. I don't think they work on it. And lending myself back to the pure progression type plays, they don't necessarily build in hot throws or adjustments on their throws. They basically tell the quarterback, beat the pressure with a throw. Guys, you can't live in the world. You can't, because all it takes is the one guy that you can beat the throw with to be covered, and you're in trouble. You have no answer. So if you don't have built-in understanding of what's going to give me a problem on a play, and okay, how are they going to have, if they bring a Mike Sam blitz, then how are they going to have to cover it? They're going to have to drop the safety down. Where are my answers? They're going to have to bring the backside will popping over. Great. I got a vertical hot. I got a flat hot. I got answers, and I've got to be able to deal the football. And so, that's part A. Is I don't think they talk about it. I don't think they emphasize it. I don't think a lot of quarterbacks really know it. They're just, I'm going to play fast, and I'm going to beat it with a throw. And then there's the second part of it that AQ kind of mentioned there, is I played in an offense where I didn't try to solve every problem before the snap. That wasn't my game. I wasn't Peyton Manning, right? I would have loved to have been Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was unbelievable, cool. Best we've ever seen
at
answering questions before the snap, right? Seeing it, getting the right protection, calling the right play, great. That was not me. When I tried to do that, it slowed me down. I wanted to answer it after the snap. Oh, you brought a Mike Sam, boom, there's my hot, ball's out, you go tackle my guy. And so that was my way of dealing with it. And so that becomes the next piece of the puzzle with these quarterbacks. What are you good at? Are we smart enough as an offense coordinator to build in hots for you? So if you're good at playing after the snap, we give you answers to do that, because that's another thing about the complexity of the defenses. I mean, AQ, you watching,
landline.
Landline. Sorry, got kids all over the place, things going on.
No, hey, you have a landline, which is awesome. That is.
You FaceTime me in the middle of my massage. You screwed up my workout. Kids everywhere. They're stealing my headphones. Like, there's all kinds of stuff.
Hey, adversity. This is what we want. This is what we want. We want adversity.
Exactly. And so, the other thing is, trying to get people to answer those questions before the snap. Like, if you're watching the Baltimore Ravens from a year ago play defense, where they're walking 8 guys up all over the place on every snap, and you have no idea if they're coming from the left or the right on this particular play, and I'm asking a quarterback, whether he's young or old, hey, solve the problem for me. Get all of the guys that come blocked on this particular play. It's impossible. Even if you have a back scanning, and the back's got to look over here because the will linebacker's walked up, and then he's got to run over here and try to pick up the Sam linebacker who actually comes, and you expect him to stone that guy so you can hold the ball and throw it down the field. It's impossible. It's impossible stuff. So, to me, you can't do that. So you've got to give these guys answers ahead of time. Not enough teams are doing it. Not enough coaches are doing it. Not enough coaches or quarterbacks understand it. And so it's part of the reason why we have a lot of bad football is, there's so many negative plays happening, when pressure comes, that it's putting the offense behind the 8 ball. A couple weeks ago on my QB Confidential YouTube page, I broke down the conference championship game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. And I'm just going to go to the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. You mentioned him earlier. Is that when pressure was brought by the Ravens, they made positive plays. Now, those positive plays weren't all 70-yard touchdowns. Some of them were a 3-yard gain to the back, and he got tackled in the flat. But instead of throwing the ball away, instead of taking a sack because the pressure's coming, we got a positive play, and we're in 2nd and 7. Right? We're in 3rd and 3 instead of 3rd and 10. And those are winning plays in the NFL against pressure, and not enough teams have consistent winning play in those situations.
We need to bring back the hot rod. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's bring back the hot routes. That's what we need
That's
back
right.
in football.
Hot route.
Bingo. That's what we need to bring back the hot route.
Yell it out if you have to.
Yeah,
Point it out.
Absolutely do that. And
Yeah.
even turn and look at your fullback and say, go, if you need him to go in motion. You know, Justin Herbert this weekend was awesome. So you mentioned something in there about watching film and on the guys every week. These guys are lying, huh? They're not watching the film. There's no way they can watch the film.
I'm not saying guys aren't watching the film. I'm always amazed when somebody can come on a show on Monday and evaluate all these players on a Monday. That's the thing that surprises me. Like I grind the tape, and I got a new schedule here, so I actually got all the tape done by the time I was done with my Monday night call on Monday Night Football. But it took me, all night Sunday and all day Monday to get it done. And when people get on Monday and make some of these evaluations, it drives me crazy. And specifically when it's about a player. Like, and now there could be something where, Pat, you have somebody on your show and you say, hey, we're going to talk about Caleb Williams. And so they can go and watch that tape and evaluate that. But when you're asking them to talk about 7-8 different guys and to think that they, have the right evaluation, it drives me crazy because people are out there listening to what they say about these players. Talk about scheme all you want. Talk about the fact that, the Saints went in and dominated up front against the Cowboys. Okay, great. But, to talk about a player and say, oh, he was awful, he played terrible because they lost or didn't have a lot of, yards or whatever, that's the thing that bothers me. But also in the tweet, it was more about, if you guys are getting this tape done faster than I am,
please,
I want to know how.
Yeah.
Like, give me the tools because it takes me forever to break it down. And so it takes long hours. So tell me your routine. Share it with me because I'd love to be more efficient if there's something I'm doing that's not efficient enough.
NFL Plus Premium. NFL Pro. That is where everybody's at right now because it's so easy to find everything. But to your point, it never made sense to me either. I never really understood how they did it. I'm like, so you guys retire from the game, and then you're 3 a.m., 2 a.m. What time are you watching all this film? You're in there doing it. I appreciate the fact that what happened is somebody on TV on a Monday said something about Kurt Warner. Mm-hmm. And, yeah. And how would you even know that? How you watched all the film? You know all the answers? Is that what took place? Is that potential?
Well, and the biggest thing for me, Pat, is simply just when I hear somebody say something and then I watch the film or I've already watched it and I know that's not the case, that's what really irritates me, right? It irritates me for the player because somebody is making a statement that thousands, millions of people listen to about the player. What's that?
A narrative.
Right, yeah, they're creating a narrative that I don't think is accurate. So that to me is kind of the first piece of the puzzle that I want to, I want people to stop doing that. If they've watched the tape and have an opinion,
stop it.
I have no problem with that. But it also helps me to know who the credible people are out there. Like when I listen to somebody talk on a Monday and you never hear somebody say, you know what, I haven't watched that tape yet. I'll get back to you on Tuesday. You never hear that. Somebody's always going to give you an answer, but it lets me know who's credible out there, who are the guys that I'll listen to, because I know that they've done the work, and then you hope that the players understand that as well, so they're not listening to all the garbage that people are saying that haven't done the work.
These modern athletes have had to live in this world of hearing from people that they don't know in their palm of their hands, literally since like high school.
Get graded too.
Yeah, and scores and like money now value.
Oh yeah.
Like what your worth is versus somebody else's worth. Like those are tough. Those are all tough things to kind of go through. And it's like these kids seemingly have been through it, but they hear everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wired in.
We have certainly said something about somebody on this show in our shows past where we run into the person and they're like,
I mean, they get asked about it now, Pat. They get asked about it. Like, I've done a couple interviews, and, on my interviews, I did like a weekly interview in Chicago, and I did something on the radio with them. And the next week they brought it up. Hey, we talked to, Coach Waldron, the offensive coordinator, about what you said on the radio. So not only do they hear it, I mean, people will pull it and they'll ask them questions about it directly. Hey, Kurt Warner said this. Explain yourself. Like, he said this about you. Tell me if this is like, so that, again, that's another thing to me why it's important to do the work. So if they're throwing my name out there and asking an offensive coordinator about something I said, I want to be able to back it up. I want to be able to have, credible evidence of why I said what I said, especially if they're going to take it to those people and ask them questions about it.
Yeah, running into them is a whole different ballgame. The internet streets are something, but then whenever you see the person, it's a whole different ballgame. Going to have to handle it. And that is why you need to go to QB Confidential.
That's right, man.
Hey, I didn't know you started this. This is awesome. I literally am just learning this. Now you have a YouTube page, I believe, which is sharing all of your Hall of Fame secrets, I believe is how it is.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I have a website, a coaching and teaching website, which is what you're showing there.
Okay.
So that's QBconfidential.com. And so that's really for people that really want to dive into the game or learn the game, young quarterbacks, old quarterbacks, coaches all over. But I have a lot of fans and analysts that follow it because there's so much information on there. It's ridiculous. But it's my way of coaching because I'm never going to coach. So there's lots of different elements to that. But I also have a YouTube page, QB Confidential, which every week I will actually break down tape of quarterbacks or quarterback play or what I see. So that's obviously free to the public, and that's not – I do it to coach and to show people and to bring out different teaching techniques, but it's not the curriculum-type based thing that you guys just showed. So QBconfidential.com if you want to really learn the game and dive into it and go through a curriculum. QB Confidential on YouTube is where you can find my breakdowns on a weekly basis.
So we got 500 level, QBconfidential.com, and then we got like 200 level YouTube.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, that's a smart way to do it, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that is a smart way to do it because those who are seeking that super high intel will find it in. Yeah. I feel like we're getting a lot of it right now.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it feels like we're in very high-level football convos, and we're coming up on a hard out here in a few moments, but there's something happening in New England that I think you will give a great take on, especially because you've already addressed it.
Yeah, Kurt, you're a big fan of the mentorship of quarterbacks. You're pretty outspoken about how it is kind of part of the deal, especially when you draft a guy very early. And last week there was a clip of Jacoby kind of teaching Drake May about either a play action or an RPO, and he kind of shows him what it's supposed to look like versus what he was doing. What do you think about the situation up in New England with Drake May and Jacoby? And do you think he is one of the guys that's going to benefit greatly from being able to sit for a year versus a lot of these other guys who have just been tossed into the fire right away?
Well, first of all, you speak to Jacoby Brissett. I know Jacoby a little bit, and he's awesome. Unbelievable individual. Going to be a competitor and battle like he has in these first two games for him. But he's going to share everything and help the guy behind him as much as possible. So kudos to him because I know he's trying to help Drake as much as possible. I believe every young quarterback would benefit from sitting, watching, and having a quality veteran in that room. And it's not just about the footwork there that we saw from Jacoby Brissett and teaching Drake May, but it's about learning how to be an NFL quarterback, how to handle the media, how to handle your teammates, how to handle your job, how to show up and do the work. I often say there's a lot of guys that don't know what they don't know. And so we can tell young quarterbacks, hey, you've got to study more. Yeah, you got to watch more film. Well, I can log more time watching film, but if I have no idea how it's helping me and no idea what I'm looking for when I'm watching it, who cares? And I think there's a lot of guys out there that come into the league that don't know, right? They want to do it. They want to learn how to work. They want to learn how to take notes. They want to learn, what these pros do to be great, but they don't know how. And so, then you throw them in there and go, well, okay, you don't really know how to play quarterback and you don't really know how to study and you're not really sure what it's like to be an NFL quarterback, but here's the ball, go do all of it and be successful right off the bat. It's impossible. So having a good vet and sitting and learning and taking that expectation off of you, I think is beneficial for every quarterback. I got to do it with Trent Green. Unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes got to do it with Alex Smith. Unbelievable. Aaron Rodgers got to do it with Brett Favre.
Compliment.
George, there's just so many different examples of how that can help you because you learn along the way all the different pieces that go into playing quarterback in the NFL.
We just wanted Brett Favre to know that was a compliment, not something bad. We've been sued before, for that entire thing. And I know he's part of the Hey, listen, all good. We have moved past everybody. But nonetheless, Kurt, you are phenomenal, man. I can't thank you enough for making time for us today. I wanted to interrupt your massage time with a FaceTime to tell you we were so thankful you were coming on the show.
I know. My massage therapist was like, "Oh, do I need to move? Are you going to take this call?" I'm like, "No, we're not. We're not going to take it right here." So no problem. Intercept my. You can interrupt my massage anytime. Happy to come on.
Hell yeah.
Keep doing a great job, guys.
We appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Kurt Warner.
Yeah, Kurt.